How is it that humans communicate? How do humans communicate? Most often people will say that they communicate with words, and I want to say that that is only part of how we communicate. And actually, that's not the most important way in which we communicate. And so what I'd like to offer you is this experiment, and I want you to try this. Try this right where you are, all right? I want you to close your eyes, and I want you to say the word apple. Close your eyes. All right, when you said the word apple, you can open your eyes now. When you said the word apple, what images came up for you? Some of you may have seen a red apple, some of you may have seen a green apple, and some of you may have seen a computer. There's always one of those people in the group, right? So you see all of those images, and so what do those images, how did that happen? Because I didn't say anything about a red apple, I didn't say anything about a green apple. Maybe you saw an apple with a stem, maybe you saw one with a leaf. I didn't say anything about any of those. So how did you come up with that? The secret to human communication is in fact this, that humans use words to communicate thoughts. And so how do we communicate? We actually communicate telepathically. I am sending thoughts from my mind to yours. I'm sending my thoughts to you using these containers, these packages called words. All right? And so when I use these words to transmit my thoughts to you, I have to be very particular about the words that I use because you'll get a particular package that I've sent. For an example, the fact that I said apple gave you a certain image in your mind. Had I said rotten apple, you'd have got a different image or a different package in your mind. All right? So why is that important? Why are the images that we generate, the ways that we talk to ourselves or talk to other people, why is that important? Because the words that we create images for other people, which stimulates their emotions. Now, have you ever heard someone say that a picture is worth 1,000 words? Right? Why do you think that is? Why is a picture worth 1,000 words? Because it communicates something on a level that words can't capture. Have you ever been to a museum or seen a picture or even just looked at a baby and you were so, or you were out in nature and you were just so in awe of everything that was happening that you couldn't describe exactly in words what you were saying? Yeah, I've been there, right? So words create images. Images simulate our emotions, and our emotions dictate our behaviors. And oftentimes what you'll hear people say is, I don't feel like doing a thing. And guess what? They don't feel like doing that because it's not a part of them. They can't do it because it's not a part of who they are. It's not a part of their nature. And so when we talk about how we communicate, it becomes very important, the words that we use, because they create pictures for us that stimulate our emotions, that ultimately dictate our behaviors. Here's another example of why this is important. When my grandfather was coming up, he grew up in Tennessee. There weren't a lot of job opportunities for African Americans, right? So being a child growing up in the South was a very big deal. It was a very tough ordeal. And so my great-grandfather was a gambler. He was a professional gambler, and they referred to him as Doc. They called him Doc. And why did they call him Doc? Because a doctor was the best thing that was in the community. So he was a doctor of gambling, all right? And so we fast forward a few years to, when I'm coming up, I'm in the neighborhood. There are no doctors in the neighborhood. There are only, the people that I can see. And so the best thing that you could do in my neighborhood in the 80s was a pimp. And so everything was pimp. We're going to pimp out this. And what's up, pimp? How you doing, pimp? Blah, blah, blah. Now, my grandfather's father was called Doc, because there were doctors in the community, and that was the best thing you could do. In the 80s, the doctors had moved to the suburbs, so the only people left in the neighborhood were the pimps, right? And so now I fast forward myself to current day and current times, and I hear something that is very disturbing to me, because it says something about my leadership as an adult, and it says something about our society at large. And now when I hear kids refer to what's the best thing they can be or do, they refer to themselves as beasts. And so what concerns me about that is that the words that we use stimulate our emotions that dictate our behaviors. So when my grandfather was a doc of gambling, he held himself in a certain kind of way. There were certain things that as a doctor of gambling, you just don't do. When I was coming up in the 80s, because we were, working on being pimps and that kind of stuff, there were certain ways that we held ourselves, that we demonstrated how we were pimp-like, even though that's a faulty metaphor. And the thing that concerns me about this mindset that our young people currently have is that they consider themselves beasts. Which means that if I think like a beast, if I have the emotions of a beast, that I'm sometimes capable of acting like a beast.